Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck.
Spiritual as Fuck.
A podcast where we explore everything outside of the ordinary. I'm Liz Volpe. I'm a social entrepreneur, now psychic medium, teacher and mentor, with a huge passion to inspire people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator and speaker. I'm also a psychic intuitive, learning to incorporate my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We're here today to share real and raw spiritual stories. It's going to give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way.
We hope you're ready to get spiritual as fuck. As we broaden our horizons on this spiritual journey, we become aware of the wide range of spiritual gifts that we humans have. Our natural curiosity encourages us to explore as many of these gifts as we can with our guests. In this episode, we interview Alicia Dumais Temmerman. Alicia is the founder of the Global Soul Centre. She's an energy healer, relationship coach, channeler, a mum, wife, businesswoman, lawyer, speaker, and the author of Pure Energy, the busy woman's energy guide to thrive. In this episode, we hear about Alicia's spiritual as fuck journey, and we lift the roof off our studio with a live channeling experience with one of Alicia's guides. Bring it on.
Okay, so hello. Today, as always, we have someone super interesting in the studio with us. Right here, Alicia. And I know you've already found out a little bit more about us, so I'm not going to delve in. But what I am going to say is I'm finding it really interesting because the guests that we're finding that are on this huge spiritual journey have all got like normal jobs. And I know that back in a different era, you were a lawyer. Yeah. And now, I don't know what you'd necessarily call yourself as such, but when I looked at your bio, you were a channeler, energy healer, and author, which is a few very, very interesting things. And I actually wanted to start with just investigating a little bit about the word being a channeler. Because what was really funny was when I had my spiritual awakening and I started to, channel spirit via writing, I automatically was like, oh, I must be a channeler. But then when I met you and I heard your story, I was like, oh no, wait a minute. You're really different to me. You must be a channeler. What am I? So I wanted to find out. You are a channeler. Tell us what that is to you.
We're all channelers.
Right.
We're all channelers, everyone. If you don't know that yet about yourself, we are all channelers. But you were faster to associate what was happening to you as channeling than I was. It took me a long time to actually know I was a channeler. I didn't know the word. I didn't know the terminology. So at the time when it all first started happening for me, I didn't understand that. The only thing that I had a narrative from was the movie Ghost.
The best movie
the
in the
best
world.
when Whoopi Goldberg, she's Oda Mae Brown or something like that, and then she has this energy come into her being. And so that's kind of the only thing that I could associate with what was happening to me. But I didn't know the word channeler at that stage. But I believe every single one of us, we are all here. We are walking beings of light, and we are tuning into various things. And every one of your listeners will have experience when they have just moments of inspiration. They have a thought where something comes and then it makes sense. There's synchronicities, or they think of someone, they ring, they text, all of the things, the poets, the musicians, the people writing plays, like so many stories where it's like, I didn't write it, it just came through me. So we channel in many ways. People channel through dancing, movement, through automatic writing that you spoke about. I channel in a very overt way that we'll talk about today. But yeah, I think we're just constantly walking around as satellites, and we're all channeling from the real dimensions, which is not where we currently are.
Oh, wow. Oh my God, I'm so excited to get stuck into this conversation. I've got so many questions. But for anyone that's listening, I want to take us back. And I want everybody just to imagine right now that they're just getting along with their normal business. It's a Tuesday, kids have gone to school, and you've got to hang out your washing. And you just stood there hanging out your washing, minding your own business. Now, this is pretty much what happened to you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil this now. Let's hand over to you. Tell us what happened next.
Okay, so I call this the washing line experience. And because that's literally what I was doing. I was outside Melbourne. I live in Melbourne, and we had a Hills hoist. Those people who know Melbourne are Aussies, or you knew Aussies, these washing lines. And I was just standing there. I probably had no shoes on potentially. And then I had this really incredible experience where I just felt a shift in me. And this sense of calmness just came over me. And then I had my voice talking to me, but I was not initiating it. So I had these words coming through my mouth saying, I am, again and again, like maybe 20 times, maybe 30 times, like trying to connect, trying to communicate. And then finally this connection, I guess the frequency joins a bit better. And I hear, I am Goenga, your father spirit guide, here to remind you what you are here to do on earth. But it's my voice telling me this, but my voice was also different. It was more of a deeper masculine tone coming through my own vocal cords, like a voice I hadn't heard come through my voice before.
By this point, had you dropped your washing?
Yeah. Pegs and everything all over.
I think I would have probably run.
I actually remember almost feeling paralyzed.
Wow.
Like I don't know if my hands were up or I can't remember, but I just remember thinking at the time, if my husband is looking through the window, he will be kind of thinking she's playing statues with herself.
Which one seems a little bit more crazy, I ask myself.
I do remember having that kind of thought, like, I know I look weird right now, but I can't really move. Like it was just this kind of, not in a scary way, paralysis. But I remember having this thought process of, okay, one of two things is happening right now. I have just gone batshit crazy spontaneously with no history of that, no drug abuse. I don't drink alcohol. I don't take drugs, no mental illness history, or this is actually happening. It's like, well, this is actually this is happening. So I was curious, and then I think I dropped into it more. So I was like, okay, right, well, let's go. What's going on? Tell me more. It was short. He wasn't there for long, but he spoke very much around energy and the mission that I'd signed up for, to come and to share with people the laws of energy and to help guide people to remember who they truly are. And he spoke about this concept of the way, to help people remember the way, which only years later did I learn that the way has a lot of historical connotations through Jesus and through Taoism and all of these.
Wow.
So I didn't know that at the time. So that was kind of there had been some lead up to that of a few things that had been happening when my body had started moving spontaneously at a shaking meditation class. And that was pretty full on. And I had my body moving by itself and kind of almost, I don't know how to explain it.
Do you mean like electricity kind of going through your body?
It was like my body was moving by itself. So in sequenced ways. Wow. So like I can kind of demonstrate, like one hand would be kind of doing this, and then my other hand would go. So I felt like my body had been unwinding itself. I now understand that my guides were working with me to help my channel to be ready and open, and they were clearing and cleaning me.
Yes. Wow. That's, and the physicality, the movement of that needs to be cleansed through the body, particularly when you talk about the shake meditation. So I'm familiar with that, but it is.
Can I just say, I have no idea what a shake meditation is.
Oh God!
Please share.
I came across it when I did the Hoffman process years ago, and it was something that we were encouraging. Close your eyes, and it was Kundalini Osha. I think was the music that we were listening to, but it for me, the sense of power, if you're not just sitting there meditating quietly, you're actually moving your body. Now, I didn't have the experience, Alicia, that you had where my body took on a life of its own, but the energetic movement out of that, the feeling that you're really waking your whole body up, that you're in tune to your whole body is fantastic. And for me, it's one of those, I call it an emergency mood shifter. So if I need to shift my energy really quickly, it's one of the things that I'll do. I'll put back on that Osha Kundalini shake meditation. And yeah, if any of my neighbors are watching me, or if my daughter walks into the room, it's like, it's not a pretty sight. It's definitely not. But was that your first time, Alicia, doing that? Because
Yes.
I think it was shortly before, or
Very shortly, weeks before. And interesting, only years later kind of have I looked back at the sequence of events, because I had actually just made quite a big decision just before I went to that shaking meditation, which was to start my own business. So I had been very much in the corporate world. I'd worked at a big law firm for 10 years, did the whole what you're supposed to do thing, get the good degree, get the best law firm, and did that for 10 years. Then I'd moved into government to try and find flexibility. I went from a 3-day job in a law firm to a 5-day job in government to get and I dropped my salary like 20 or 30 grand to do that. This is the things that we do as mums to try and find balance. Surprisingly, I ended up with more work, less money, blah, blah. So I'd made the decision to start my own business, even though I didn't have money to support myself to do that. But I think it was like I'd taken that thing, you take the step and then the universe steps out.
So I'm wondering how intuitive that decision was then, because a lot of people have this amazing thought like, oh, I'd love to start a business but never take the action. How intuitive was that? Was that where you just felt in flow? Because that's a big decision.
It was at the time. It really was. It had been kind of percolating for quite some time, and there was a wake-up call prior to that where I had just crying mess, my children weren't well and I didn't have time to take them to doctors, and I was just like, I don't have, in my mind I was like, I don't have time for you to be getting this x-ray on your stomach, my beautiful child. I need to get to work and I need to do all the things. And then I remember getting back in the car and was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You've brought these beautiful beings here. You've got no time for them because you're so busy. You have to go and meet all the needs of everyone else. And it was just actually almost felt like just this energetic, boom. And that's when I started coming home to myself and journaling more, meditating. And it was probably a year. It took me kind of a year to then really make the decision. My timing might not be quite right, but
well, I feel like we can take so much from that story.
And we both relate exactly, relating in that, like, it's actually 6 years today since I left the corporate world. And the whole slap across the face sort of feeling that you were experiencing there. It's like, sometimes we have those things that just come in and our whole life's interrupted. But how you say about it being, you still needed to make a decision. Okay, I'm now going to do this. And then the universe opened up to support you, so to speak, through the shake meditations, through the laundry experience, or the washing line experience, as you call it. So can you share for us a little bit? So that's the moment in time. So you had the shake meditation, you also had the washing line experience, but you go back in to make dinner and sit down with the family. It's, what did your life has forever changed in that moment. How do you then kind of reconcile? Because you do need probably a little bit of processing time to yourself. I know I did, before sharing some of this stuff with others. But what did the next kind of, weeks, months, year, if that's what it was, to kind of come to grips with, okay, this is part of my life and part of who I am now? Yes.
Wow. My whole body just responds to that, because it was such an intense time. It was really intense because felt like I was suddenly living in two worlds. And as you relate to, because I know your story, and I want to know more about you, Diane, but if you're in this game, in this podcast here today, then I'm sure you've got plenty to share of, this idea. It just changed everything, because you can read all you want about spiritual experiences, but when you actually have that lived experience where it's like, no longer is there one doubt that is real, that the unseen forces, the unseen dimensions, or whatever it is that you've read about and heard about. But when you have an experience like that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, this is absolutely 100% true. And so it just changes how you see everything. And I had a very full-on, probably 8 weeks after that, where that was my first guide who introduced himself. And then we had a whole team of them coming through.
Oh, okay. The party has started.
The party started, and they were like, right, and literally flying in. So whenever in those probably maybe 6 to 8 weeks, if there was a time when I wasn't with someone, which is rare, right? When you've got, I had a 3 and a 5-year-old back then, I was still working and all the things. So if I was by myself, then I would have another guide fly in and introduce themselves by name, and completely different in the way they spoke through me, different voice, different accent, using my body differently. And so I went and you talk about you investigating me. I went and wanted to investigate this myself, because a lot of my work as a lawyer at that time, I set up my own business doing workplace investigations. So I'm an investigator.
Yes.
So I needed the proof and the evidence just for myself initially. And so I went and bought like an old school video camera. And so when someone was flying in, I was like, hang on, setting it up.
Fantastic.
So I've actually haven't done anything with them, but I've got the recordings of this. So we haven't even given you the time. I don't think I've given you the time period of this.
The start of the documentary there. Right?
Absolutely. Just having that recorded journal, that is
my guides want me desperately to do a documentary on channels. But
there's validation right there.
Oh my God. I don't think we've even done the time period of this. So this is March 2012, friends.
Yes.
Your listeners. So we're in March 2012. So we're kind of just over 11 years almost now. I went and got this video camera and I was videoing it because I wanted to watch back, and I'm thinking I deserve like an Oscar. I don't have any acting abilities or acting, training, whatever.
Training, yeah.
But suddenly I'm like, wow, this, all these different beings coming through, introducing it by name and sharing kind of where they sit in the team, in the spirit team, and what they're here to assist with.
Can I ask a question for clarification? Because Liz, obviously, through the podcast is sharing her experiences where she is channeling people who have passed on, but for your experience is different. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what it is you're channeling in those energies? It would just help our listeners, help me into the curious mind.
I love that. And I knew that question was coming because I was in the shower this morning and it was coming to me, this concept of the difference between mediumship and channeling. And there's definitely an interplay with them. So you can imagine like frequencies of what you're tapping into. So at the moment, Liz, and you're channeling as well, but you're in the work you're doing, I understand, tapping into loved ones who have passed on from their human form. So like your frequency is tuned beautifully into that. So mine is not so much. I have had experiences like that, which we can talk about, but mine is channeling beings who are no longer in human form and have evolved to the point that they do not need to come back to human form.
So they once were human?
Yes, not all of them.
Okay.
So not necessarily the angels. So it's that frequency that I'm tuning into.
And I'm guessing, just my logical mind goes, that must be a higher frequency than potentially a loved one that's passed over?
Well, if we talk about it in that way of higher or lower, but not better or worse.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just different.
Because I mean, for me, I always explain that, when I want to make a connection, it is like having, an antenna stuck in my head, and I try and basically pull my energy as high as possible to be able to reach that energy. Is that similar? I guess the question that I have is, what is the feeling that happens? Do you suddenly know? Is there some type of like tingle that you get when it's about to happen? And
so early on, it was all over the shop. And it would, sometimes my right hand would start to move, and some of your listeners may have experienced this. So I say that because of that.
Wow.
So, but you have it's almost like you might have a different way. someone might feel some heat in the top of their right head. Sometimes I would also feel like a sense of wind coming past me and things like that. But now they never come in unless I invite them.
Yes, I'm guessing you set some type of boundaries.
Yes.
This is also
Yes. For your listeners, if you are experiencing any of this, yes.
Isn't it amazing when you realize you can do that?
Yes.
Oh my God, it just changes your life.
Yes. Well, at the time, I was kind of freaking out slightly because it does feel like you're being taken over, right? And that is a bit scary. So it's like, oh my God, if I got like an entity taking me over, but then I had this deep sense of calm and peace, and all of the messages have been so beautiful. And I've not had one bad experience. I'll just put that out there now. So, but there was that part of me. So I actually got my Reiki master to come to my house. I said, John Williams, you need to just come over and help me because there's some crazy shit going down here. And I'll never forget, he just sat in the couch and I stood up and my arms were flying around and this and that. And I think this was even pre the full channeling. I can't remember the time of it. And he's watching it on, he's sitting there, he's laughing. He's like, you're a medium. You've got your guide, got this. He's like this guide and that, whatever. But he didn't mention the word channeler. And it took me, I reckon, 3 years at least after that washing line experience to realize I was a channeler. Maybe longer, honestly. I didn't know the word. And this is back, like now channels are just popping up everywhere because of what's happening with the shift in our planet, right? But in 2012, I didn't know anyone.
You were really on your own back.
And you weren't tapped into it. It's like for us, all of us now, the three of us here, we're more tapped into that energy. That's the, the information that comes to us. But when we're starting out in our spiritual journey, it's new terms that we have to learn. Like Liz and I talk about the things that we Googled when we were going through our experiences, first of all. So you didn't even know to Google channeling.
Correct. I remember Googling some things and I came across this concept of the Kundalini awakening.
Yes.
And that made sense in the shaking meditation of what was happening with my body.
Yeah.
But I didn't experience what a lot of people talk about experiencing the Kundalini, which some people kind of have dark night of the soul, or they have things that they're purging and all of that. My body was being purged, but I didn't have a sense of any darkness or difficulty around that for me.
Okay.
I'm guessing when people are listening to this, that the first question that might pop to the head is like, this must have been terrifying and scary. And I know that you mentioned that because I know for me, when I went through my spiritual work, there was a period of 3 weeks where I was really, really scared.
Right.
Right. And I know that you're feeling that sense of calm, which I guess eliminated a lot of the fear.
I didn't have a lot of fear around it. It just felt so true. It just felt, yes, this is true.
Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
I'm like, as soon as he spoke about me having signed up and chosen this, I was like,
how
I know that.
We know what we know. Did you have any fear? So if you think about, you went from, okay, I've had this single experience at the washing line to, okay, here's the party and everybody's trying to gate crash, to then eventually learning how to be a bouncer at your own door and stopping some of the energies coming through. Was there any fear at that point in time when, I guess uninvited this was happening to you?
Yes.
Or was it still all
there was one experience as they were all coming in and introducing themselves. And there was one experience that I wouldn't say was frightening, but I would say it was overwhelming. And this was an experience I can still remember exactly where I was at my house at that time. I was right at the front door. There was like a bookcase and I had my video recorder or video something there, and an energy came through who was part of my spirit team, but the first time, and I hadn't experienced this energy before. The entire channeling was not in English.
Wow.
And it was just watch it, I think there's a mirror right there. So I'm watching my body communicate this white Australian woman communicate in an entirely different language that I didn't understand. I could get the sense of things and my hands were being moved around like, hard and this and that. And I remember as the energy kind of left, I actually physically almost kind of fell back. And I remember then saying, hey guys, I'm not sure I'm quite ready for that. And then quite quickly, another guide called Arumba. He's like a masculine warrior guide who does channeled qigong and breath work through me. He came in and he said to me, that's an ancient guide, a family guide. No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. I worked this out later. I think I said, what was that language? And he said, that is Minahassan. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. And this is where I went to Google.
Yes.
And I thought there's not going to be anything on there. Like, what is Minahassan? How do you spell Minahassan? And then I typed in what I thought was similar to this Minahassan. And this is one defining moment for me in this journey, which clinched the deal. I was like, okay, even this kind of skeptical investigator where I was still, yes.
A signy a sign, as I say.
Yeah. And I think it's good to be skeptical. I think it's good to be discerning and to be making sure we're bringing things through our own filter and all of it with everything. And I remember Googling and it came up that Minahassan is an ancient language, an ancient dialect spoken in Manado, specifically in Manado, which is a city in Sulawesi, which is in Indonesia.
Wow.
My blood grandfather in this life is Manadanese.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that is mind-blowing.
Nuts. And I haven't had a lot to do with him. He's passed now, but he lived in Sydney, and I would say I maybe met him or saw him, I feel like maybe 6 times. So we did not get into any ancient dialogues of dialects. Yes.
Or learning how to count to 10 in minutes.
No. So that was like a real, a big piece for me. It's like, okay. And this is the thing when we're channeling, because, a lot of the things that come through, I feel like, I've maybe read that or I've heard that, or, what is me and what is them. But things like that I know I don't know in my human lived experience, Alicia, I can't.
Those moments
I can't explain that.
Very special and very important.
Yeah, and so precise.
Yeah, wow.
I'm interested in the physicality of it. So it must have been the fact that you were looking at yourself in the mirror, so you could observe the whole physicality. You can hear yourself, what you're saying, knowing this is not a language I know, but having some sense of understanding of it. Do you, and not so much at that point in time, but even now, do you find that you yourself can have some editing ability over what's being channeled through you, or is it just that it comes to you and through you and you need to honor the spirit or the energy that is, or the guide that's coming through you? So
maybe I'll explain. There's a few different ways that I channel in my kind of lane of channeling. So there are 3 different ways. One that's the easiest for me is when I allow them to I surrender entirely to them, and they use my voice, they use my arms, they use my body, and they talk through me. That's the easiest for me because I'm kind of the most checked out in some ways. So my energy just goes back and sits in my right shoulder. That's how I feel.
Oh, wow.
I feel that I hand over the reins and I sit back in my right shoulder. And interestingly, I was doing an event one time and there was a medium in the room, and she came up to me. She goes, I wasn't going to come, but they keep telling me I've got to come and I've got to tell you. She saw the exchange of energy when I brought through a guide. She saw where I went, and I was like, that's where I go. Like, so that was just, again, like another validation. She saw my energy sit back here, and their energy come to the front. So that was cool. So this is the first way, whereas I call that they're at the front channeling. So in that respect, Diane, I don't have any interplay. That's all them. Then there's another way, which is I call me at the front. Okay. So, and I did a lot of this as I slowly came out. It took me 6 years to come out of the closet, by the way, everyone, in case you're knowing how long it took. It took me six years. I told about 6 people for 6 years. And then I finally came out 2018, I think it was. But once I came out of the closet, it then took me a long time to allow the front channeling with them at the front. So I was at the front. So me at the front is them dropping the words, almost word by word, block by block, sentence by sentence, and it comes through. So I kind of hear it as it comes, and then I say the word, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then there's a third way that I haven't done a lot of, and it requires more of my energy. where I ask them to communicate a little bit more in symbols and concepts, and I then bring it through maybe more in the way that a psychic might.
Because I was going to say that
interpreting.
Yes,
to me.
And they use things that I know and within my Alicia lived experience. That requires more work, and I haven't done a lot of practice of it because it's just more involved.
Time,
it's harder for me.
It takes a lot of time to get used to the symbols that you've each found.
Yeah,
and what they mean.
That's right. So they're kind of the three ways that I channel in terms of answering that question.
Oh, absolutely. I just imagine our listeners listening to this, because there will be people who are either going through or have gone through something similar to you, and then there will be people, you know, who have had no experience of this or not even aware that this is a thing or this is a possibility. So I just love that you are breaking it down into those, here are the different ways that I experience it, and here's the journey that I've had so far.
And plus there's our automatic writing, because that was a starting point. I actually had one of my earlier experiences around this time was my nan talking to me through my hand.
I'll see, that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. Does everyone have this team of spirit guides?
100%.
Yeah.
And 100%. No one is left here by themselves. Here we go. We're just going to release you into this time-space reality that has significant amount of challenge, obstacles, suffering, all the things. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on down here. Our divine creator does not do that to us.
Wow.
Can you, so on that, Liz, because you were asking about, you know, do we all have this whatever team of spirits, or, you know, and I think the more we tap into being more intuitive, being more psychic or channeling, we start to realize, or they, you know, will come through in different forms to different people. But one of the things while doing the research, and you mentioned it also at the beginning of the podcast, about your guides talking to you about the way, and the fact that has a lot of ancient, like it's popped up in lots of different, teachers throughout the years. What can you explain to us a little bit about that? Because that's tightly woven into the work that you do.
Yes. So for me, everything is around teaching love, and love first and foremost for our own being, for the journey that we've decided to embark upon, and how courageous we are for this. There are plenty of souls that have said, you know what, maybe I'll not do the run on earth. I'll choose this other dimension, and I might take my time with my spiritual evolution. Like the souls who come here, they're kind of like a bit of a fast track. It's like, whoa, you just hit, and you know that, listeners, right? You think you're just coming up from one wave here. Oh, wow, we just got through that thing, that career challenge, that health challenge, that parenting thing, and it's like, oh, and you just take a breath, and it's like, here we go, game on. And it's like the next wave is coming. So it's not for the faint-hearted, this realm. So the way for me is love, compassion, forgiveness, and bringing that to ourselves, and then extending that to other beings, and doing no harm, and seeing in others, when you look at each other being, that perfect, beautiful, light, gorgeous body that is here experiencing this one little aspect of their whole beingness in this particular physicality. And once we start to see that in everyone, as soon as you look into the eyes of someone else, it's like all the division just starts to melt, and the remembrance that we are all one.
How beautiful.
It is. It's interesting though, because listening to that, and now I'm finding myself, I'm smiling, I'm nodding, I'm completely resonating with what you're saying. But me from 2 years ago would have been, I don't understand what you're talking about. It's like what realms, dimensions, the sense of oneness, even though something in your soul is kind of saying, okay, I get this, but I don't know what it actually means. And I think that was one of the driving forces behind Liz and I starting this podcast. It's like, let's unpack all of this, because if we're just talking to the spiritual, the long anointed spiritual community, they all get this stuff and they're already kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. But for people starting out, it's like, I don't get all of this. Like, not everybody may understand or subscribe to the idea that, you know, Earth or human form is a school. It's a way of learning. It's like we're being given these challenges to learn and evolve. And for me, I don't have all of that figured out either, but it's so interesting to us to be able to interview people, and even for Liz and I to share our own experiences about what does this all mean? Because it just gives, it ends up becoming that we give people a lot more grace. We, you know, treat people with a lot more compassion, that we have that more open-heartedness. There's less division between people, even on the earth, even if you don't think about it in extra realms or dimensions or anything like that. But if we just are able to come from a place of love and keep that as your, you know, the highest frequency that you can hold on to in how you usher yourself through your life, it's a beautiful way to, you know, to guide your life, or to have your compass set for your life.
And even if that's too far for someone to think that we're all one energy, because I think from our mental faculty, that is very tricky to grasp. Very, very tricky. My son, when he was my oldest, when he was maybe 4, I remember him saying, "Mum, you know, we're all just one big family."
Kids say,
you know,
things they say.
So even if we think, we can't see that we're all one energy, but even if we do know in the depths of ourselves, we are one family, aren't we? No matter where you go, what country, and this is where energy is the universal frequency.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have to speak the language of another human to have the energetic connection exchange. And everyone on your podcast will have experienced that, where they might think, I'm not spiritual, or I don't get this. Okay, well, have you had an experience where you walk into a room, you meet a new human, and you get an energetic read on them? 100% every single one of you have had that. That's because you're not fully human. You are predominantly, fully, truly, at the ultimate reality, spiritual being, putting on the suit of a human and playing out our drama here. But one of a common message that comes through from my guides is to embrace both parts, the human part and the spiritual part, because we came to be human. So we can also go down the path of becoming so into all the spiritual stuff and almost denying the humanness that we miss the point. And when you said, you know, not everyone's maybe getting this, I don't believe everyone's necessarily supposed to get this in their particular curriculum of where they are, because some people have chosen to come and to really be fully human. And that's not better or worse than someone who you might see as some enlightened master walking the planet. Neither is better or worse. It's just we've chosen different curriculums here.
I feel so lucky because I joined your private Facebook group and I got the opportunity to actually watch the videos of you channeling all different types of guides.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even put it into words? When I was watching the first couple of videos, and I class myself as quite open-minded, I was like,
what's going on here?
I just remember in some ways there's this element of feeling like it was confronting.
Yeah, it is.
Because I was like, well, now I know the shit, excuse my French, that's been happening to me. And you know, now my new normal is I'm talking to dead people. Now, all of a sudden, I just got my head around that. And now I'm watching someone actually doing a different voice and watching your body move and channeling the most profound messages. And I hope you don't mind, but I brought in my husband at this point because you know, he's been through all of this with me, and I showed him videos and he was like, oh my goodness, that's actually just too much for me.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean,
it was too much for me. It was too much for me. It was too much for me, which is why it took me 6 years, because I had this identity of this lawyer identity, which I am still actually working in that space as well. Wow. So I get that it's a lot. And I'm used to now the comments where I remember someone in my face, someone who was watching one of the videos was like, is this for real? Do people like, do you know Alicia? Like, who is like, what is going on? Because if you don't know the human, you would think, oh, she's just putting it on, or she's acting this, or she's creating all these different characters. How exhausting. I mean, and that would be, I don't have time for that. I got 4 kids, I'm working. I don't have time to try and create all these characters and all of these scripts and all like,
and not get the Oscar.
And
that's my Oscar. And that's my Oscar.
Look, and I actually wrote that down because when you do watch these guys come through, it's like, it would, you would deserve an Oscar, like all of these different characters. And it was so interesting. And I'm just wondering, you know, do we meet you and watch these when it's just our time to watch them.
Yeah,
Do you know
I
what
think
I mean?
there's a lot of that, because a lot of people will respond to a particular message like, oh, I haven't been on Facebook for however many months, and I've just, this popped up and this was exactly what I needed to hear right now. And so, yeah, I have no attachment to putting out the messages. It's just put it out, and I know if that helps one person, then that's worth me getting over myself, getting over my worries about, and that was a big thing. And some of your listeners who are having experiences and feeling like, gosh, do we come out of the spiritual closet or do we not? That was basically at the end of the day what got me out of the closet. I just thought, I've got all these messages that I know are just comforting, loving, have given me so much peace, which is ultimately what we're all looking for, right? And so if that helps one person to have more of that, then that's worth me looking like a crazy person.
Alicia, how does it feel to you when someone doesn't believe what's happening?
Initially, I took it to heart, definitely. But now I really I just had an example of this recently. I don't use YouTube much, but one of my messages put on YouTube, and then, yeah, there were some negative things definitely coming back into the comments, because there are some people that are of the view that this is playing with the devil. Interestingly, my husband was a Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
So there's like, I get that, because when you have a very strong belief and you've been taught and told that this is playing with the devil, then people will have those views. And I just love them. Okay, well, that's where they're at, and there are their views. And I don't want to convince anyone.
No, I don't think it's your job.
Yeah. So I just don't respond. You know, there's a resonance that comes through in the message. There's a frequency that comes through. And even if the words are not making sense for their mental faculty of what they understand, I do believe that the frequency and the energy and the sound and the vibration is touching their soul in some way.
Have your guides ever given you a message around belief, and whether you should even bother talking to people that are not, are not open at all, or should you, because it might help to open the door?
No, not specifically. No, I think that it's just this concept that, people will find it when they're ready, if it's for them. And even if they're not ready, as just a provocation.
It plants a seed. If they come across something, it's like, something sticks in the back of your mind. You might not be ready for it yet, but 6 years time, who knows whether it is something that
Don't you think that when you look at your life's path, someone like yourself who has been in law and has got this credibility, has been chosen, your career has probably been chosen for that reason, because when I first met you, I know that you're completely normal, right? Well, none of us are normal.
Well, don't start making that assessment quite yet.
It's all relative.
You come and live in my house.
But if I was to meet you and stood outside the school gates as an example, I'd be like, yeah, Alicia, she's a lawyer, she's absolutely incredible. You automatically have a lot of credibility in my head. I feel like that's why people like you are chosen to suddenly go on with this gift and share it with the world.
I do think there's definitely truth in that there was everything is perfect in everyone's realm. Everyone's realm. When I say realm, I mean actual physical version of you. Like the things that we may not think make sense, I do believe, and that can be confronting to hear, because people go, what, Alicia, are you telling me that my cancer diagnosis is are you telling me? I get it, like suffering is a big piece of our way home and also of our awakening, but I do feel that I had to go down that law path for a lot of reasons. It made me pretty disciplined, like even pulling my book together. Like I had to have had almost the training of, I've put together big investigations. So it was like, okay, well, I can, translate those skills into this. So a lot of the skills I've learned from being a lawyer, translating and helping. And also I think, that credibility piece is probably one of them. Yeah.
I think it's comforting for people to hear that it's because a lot of people will be in maybe a corporate job, maybe they're a business owner, maybe they're a mum or a dad, whatever. It's like, this is my life as I know it, but everything that I can still tap into all of that. It still serves me. It's not a case of, okay, well, I have to leave my whole entire old way of being behind. It's like all those skills, everything that you've learned, it's still the breadcrumbs on the trail to the, the path of your purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we could have we could have so much talk about, so much discussion about it. There's like all these offshoots that we want to
I know, exactly.
You back I'm really curious. Do your guides have a message for our listeners?
Who knows?
By any chance? Who knows? Shall we ask?
Yes, we can definitely do that. So I will bring through my healing guide. She is like a comforting grandma energy.
Oh, she sounds perfect already.
I just literally had someone come around for a session last night, and just as soon as you feel her, you just feel like someone is wrapping you.
What's really funny is I can
already feel.
I can too. I can feel my grandmother. I can feel my granny right now.
Yeah.
Even as you're saying that.
Yeah, she's just, I feel her too. She's just this most beautiful, loving, wise energy, but also who understands kind of the toils and the trials and tribulations of being here. So she's just got this huge heart of compassion for us humans on this path. So she's the one. She when she comes through, it does look a little bit strange. They all look a little bit strange, let's be honest, but she uses sound frequencies to get onto my channel. So when she comes through, you will hear some noises when she comes through onto my channel. And a lot of the work she does with me is light code healing frequency work. So she, brings through a lot of different light languages to work with people. So yes, through sound vibration, because our mental construct, it kind of can bypass that for humans. I don't know if she'll bring through any of that. She might bring a combination of a bit of an English message, and maybe she'll bring some light codes. So now that I've explained it, she's like, of course, like we're not gonna just like tell them that and not show them or experience that. Like, okay, thank you. They can be quite bossy, and playful and fun, and just all the things that we want to be as humans, really. So we'll bring her through and just bring just a little short message.
Do you want me to move back or anything?
No, you're fine. You happy there?
Just making sure. Well, cozy, like
she'll reach her little arm out.
I do have to say, what was really interesting, because I'm super sensitive to energy, is that as you're talking, I have a head sway happening, which happens a lot when I'm getting some type of a connection. Do you get that, or why is that happening to me, do you think?
I don't get a head sway, but I do know the experience of feeling like I do feel that often throughout the day, where I just, as the dimensions joining and the veil kind of thins, I do sometimes have that feeling. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's happening a lot right now, actually. So I'm just going to get a drink too. And drinking a lot is really important for energy work, for channeling. Like sometimes I'll be halfway through a session and I'll be literally told I have to go and have a drink, because with the connection for them to connect, if I'm dehydrated, it's harder for them to connect with me for some reason.
So there's a whole other reason to drink more water. We keep getting told drink water, but now we know here's another reason to do that.
Yeah, well, water's an energy conductor, right?
Absolutely.
One last thing I just want to mention here, which is just an interesting question just for me. Just sometimes during meditation or during a channel, I can suddenly just get this crazy cough where I've never had a cough before, and then I start coughing. Then
that's purging.
Interesting.
That's purging for me. I probably should have said this earlier, because I always say this when I'm doing my work. Don't believe anything I say. Do not believe anything I say unless you bring it through your own energy, your own filter, your own heart, and say, that feels right. That feels true for me, or it doesn't. So as I say that very definitively, like, well, maybe it's not, right? That's my experience. Sometimes I'll have, and sneezing, coughing, burping, farting. We do a lot of purging as we go toilet. That
definitely resonates. I just used to put it down to like this clearing of potentially voices or something like that happening to me as well, or just communication, or someone working on my my throat chakra or something like that.
For me, that's what it is, because I don't view that I channel, but for me it is throat chakra activation. It is the stuff that needs to come out that I'm resisting or that I'm not putting forward.
But you are channeling, right? So even if you were channeling before, right? So when there was a period where you were talking, I can't remember what it was about. So you were talking about different people and whether they're open to it or not, or this or that. Like everything's just flowing out of you, right?
Yes.
You're channeling that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mine is more collective energy. That, like, I mean, that is how I, like, you know, reading the sense in a room, the reading the vibration of people or individuals, but not necessarily, I guess, when I look at Liz, and it's, you know, it's people who have passed from their human experience here on Earth, whereas for you, it's broader than that. But for me, it seems very generic, very the collective energy in the room, or the sense of what's going on with the individual that's in front of me, or even if it is through Zoom, it doesn't have to be, you know, physically in that same location. But I am
that sounds pretty cool to me.
It works in my business, that's for sure. But I am so fascinated to see this, and I just want to say for our listeners who are on podcasts, we will have this on YouTube as well, because there's a physicality to your work very much as well, Alicia, that, you know, for people who may be listening to the audio, they can always look over to YouTube as well to get that fuller experience.
Perfect. I'm just going to take my chewy out of my mouth, because it's just like sitting on the top of my, what do you call it, mouth. And Maya's not really a fan of that.
Grandma doesn't like the chewing gum.
Keeping it classy here. All right, well, let's bring the beautiful Amaya through, and I do so with just so much gratitude, reverence, sacredness. You know, it's not, you know, like a party trick, this stuff. And it may feel a little bit like that in a podcast, you know, you feel like, oh, you're just like showing a party, but I just want to make that really clear. Like, this is this beautiful being coming through and intermingling, and I'm the bridge for her to come through, for her to have the opportunity to communicate with us, which I'm eternally grateful for. And just, knowing that if there's one person, if you're the person, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I'm the person, that this somehow touched, or it opened you a little bit more, and it somehow, connected you back with your heart more. Because I don't think any of us are here truly, we can't carry anyone through the journey. Like, ultimately, everyone, it's only for ourselves. And so much of my work is not saying, guess what, I know all the answers, I can show you this. No, the only thing I can do is help guide you back to you, because that's where the answers are lying, waiting, ready to come forth for each and every one of us. All right, let's do it. Just give me a little bit to just connecting with her. Maya, I humbly request you please come through my channel. As I know you're already aware, we are here with Liz and Diane on this podcast, and be very grateful if you just have a message, just a short message, or if there's any frequencies and light codes, whatever will, you know, be of the highest and the best for those listening, we'd be very grateful. Thank you, Maya.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, it's a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to communicate directly with those of you currently on the human journey. So, there is so much that I would love to share with you all. But here, in this moment, this particular moment in your time, I would, if I may, wish to build upon, if I can, Alicia, what you were talking about just now, about this sense of the humans coming back into their own being. Because what you call your earth, it has much that has been built up, shall we say, energetically within the patterning, so to speak, of your realm, that has created a sense of human journey being very much around following all such things that you see around you, Oh, for your life, it is important that you, and you can ask yourself, listener, I use your language, I'm very up to date with the podcasting. Listener, oh yes, listener. Listener, dear one, you ask yourself that question. What have been the requirements imposed upon you by the patterning of your realm, so to speak? In fact, I should be more specific. I should not say the realm, the earth. That is perfect. However, the human way of being on the realm has created many expectations, many requirements, many obligations, many duties, and all such things that many humans are feeling very, very strongly that they must follow all the things. But in doing so, continuing to shift their energy away from their own magic jewel that is there, right there, all along, already there within you, seeking to shine for you, seeking to light the way, seeking to guide you. But the distractions are strong with your earth. The distractions are strong, many, and varied. And so, it can be very difficult, even those of you whom regard yourselves as very, very far along the spiritual path. Okay. And then you get moments where you get brought down to earth so quickly, and you get distracted again with all the things that seem so important for your earth. Listening deeply, quietness, solitude, time for being with your own self, the greatness of you, this magnificent light being that is here, right here with you now, but yet you are searching outside of yourself in any and many directions for the answers. They are not to be found outside of yourselves. Even here in this transmission, is not anywhere close to the information that is accessible to you by you within you. You see, it is all there, ready, waiting for you to find it within yourself. But it requires a discipline. It requires a commitment, a deep and unabiding commitment to your own self. Your own self, but yet many humans struggle with the same thing. Worthiness. Oh, but I am not worth that. So I go around and distract myself all in all the places to try and build up my sense of worthiness, to show the people, look, I am worthy because look, I have this one next to me. I have this one here. Look, I am worthy because look at all the degrees I have. Look how worthy I am. And I say this, my dear friends, not in a condescending manner, not at all, but rather with my deep love and compassion for all of you, because you think I have not walked the path of such things. Oh, yes, I have. And I can share with you, it took me a long time. I was a very slow learner. My goodness. If we could share, if you could see the many lives, the many things I did, all the lives, again and again. There she goes again, making a mistake. There he goes again, make a mistake. Doesn't matter. What appears to be the mistakes from the human vantage point, ultimately, there are none. So it doesn't matter. We want you to take the pressure off yourselves, my darling. We want you to take the pressure off myself. You're already perfect, already there, ready, waiting for you. There's not much that is truly required of you when you come. And that can also be a tricky business here. I must find my purpose. I must know what I am here for. Your purpose is to live your life, your being, placing yourself front and center, experiencing all of the delicious things that are available to you in your realm. Experience it. Take the pressure off. More play, more love. You cannot truly go wrong, but you can create a hard life for yourself here if you choose to, or not. I prefer for you the or not. I prefer for you to lighten up, my friend. Lighten up in the saddle of life. Enjoy your time there. It is precious, truly precious, and it is finite. There are only a certain amount of hours and days and moments you have in that particular body. So please, if you may, and I cannot impose upon you, you have your free will, of course. However, for your time there, if you can, love yourself, my darling. Accept all parts of yourself. For what you think maybe is not perfect in a sense of the human vantage point, my darling, is perfect. For all you have chosen to experience there for your curriculum, it is not the same as the person next to you whom you are comparing your life to and thinking you are lesser than, oh, they have this, I don't have this, all the things. Well, when you see it is all one, oh yes, you do have those things in that other aspect of you. So, we love you all so deeply. If only you could truly feel the level, the degree, the extent, the depth of the love that is held for you by all that is and all that will ever be. And please know, my darlings, you never die. It is an impossibility. Your essence continues. So when you question your worthiness, my darling, but if you are of an essence that can never be extinguished, the question of your worthiness pales into nothingness, doesn't it? How can a being not be worthy of living a human journey? How can a being not be worthy of all the things that we question ourselves about when we're in a human form, when you are an inextinguishable being of light? Darlings, darlings, darlings. Okay, we bring the word light as the bridge to the codes. Okay, so you can, if you are not already closing your eyes, we recommend this for you if you want to receive this information. The words have a density quality to them. We are able to provide a deeper level of transmission when we use the codes and the sounds. Oh, 1 moment, please. Thank you. Ora cambala cotsire pedare la conza te de tukungu ya tila ya ndira chubara ki leongo ya te. Ora ngara obala chela ngo ya ti atela ku engi ya ti. La tu korengo ya ti. Chi yum ya tikela ko ya. Tu kombo ya tikela ki. Lo mia takia chi. Lalo kumbayati kalaki tu ajoba takale ko to kumbayati laki tu bayati ha bayati laki oya ingia telako telaki ze lako la umbara telaki bayati laki chalangoyati laki chalangoyati laki ze ha je Jalo bache si kumbayate Angela si kumbo jala kumbayati ha. Sungguh. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. He's connecting now.
Wow.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi, it's Alicia. back in the
Wow.
house.
I feel, I'm not sure if you agree with this, Diane, that we shouldn't say too much more after that.
Oh, I agree. I think never mind about our listeners, it's like just allowing that to settle and process and
Yeah.
magical.
I guess to wrap up from that, do you have any advice for someone that is starting out on a spiritual journey?
Go gently with yourself, because I think our human tendency, like with anything, when we start an endeavor, people then go and kind of compare themselves to Eckhart Tolle or, Gabby Bernstein, and then they think, oh, I need to know everything. And, we're curious minded, which is beautiful, but just so much of the spiritual journey we think is in the books and in the podcast, and what Amaya was talking about, like actually it's just, and this is a message for me as well, which I'm going to be dedicated to do more of, to not intellectualize it. And because everyone has their own experience, and you can read 1,000 people's spiritual experiences, but that's nothing compared to just sitting with your own self and feeling your own experiences, your responses, sitting in silence, feeling. Those of you who have never felt energy, just rub your hands and just start to feel the energy between your hands, and to have your own unique experience of it, and nothing is better or worse. There is no spiritual awakening. Oh, wow, I want that spiritual. Some of you might be, oh, wow, you want that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Like, it comes with a lot of different things that you may not want, right? So just know that whatever is uniquely coming forth in your spiritual awakening journey is perfect for you. But to also, it helped me to seek guidance, to seek spiritual mentors that could help guide me along the way as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's
Incredible advice.
Absolutely incredible advice, because I think even what I was sensing through all of that was the sense of, that message of just being true to yourself, really just, and I wrote it down, like the purpose is to live your life. It's just live your life. It's, yes, we can intellectualize, we can take in a lot of information, we can listen to podcasts like this one, but it's, that level of discernment and filtering you mentioned earlier, about filtering it through your own experience, what resonates for you, and give ourselves grace as we go through on that path. So it is beautiful for Liz and I to have, our guests come on and just say, well, what is it in the moment? So what is that pearl of wisdom that you want to share? Because I have no doubt, like, it definitely resonated for me. I have no doubt that it will resonate for our listeners as well.
And look, where can everybody find you? You've got your book, you do energy healing, you've got your channeling. Where can we go?
So probably the best place is my website, which is my name, just www.aliciatemmerman.com. And then that leads you to the Facebook groups and the retreats and the whatever else, circles and the all the things. Although I don't know how much I'm going to do, because I've just come back from India, and now I'm actually like, all the things that I thought I was going to do this year, I don't know, because I think I'm actually going to be doing a lot more of my own work with me this year.
Oh, wow.
We all learn to course correct pretty quickly on this spiritual path, that's for sure. It's what we planned yesterday. Yeah, it goes out the window the following day.
Yeah.
Oh, well, honestly, Alicia, thank you so much. That was just incredibly special. I feel honored.
Thank you for having me. I was so excited this morning to be coming here. So I'm so grateful that you've invited me.
Well, I feel like Alicia definitely fits within our clan of being spiritual as fuck, really.
Absolutely. That's it for another episode.
Thank you for listening. Did you know that we are building a movement of 1 million people who are spiritual as fuck? We would love for you to join us. You can start by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I'm going to intuitively choose one person and do a psychic reading for you. So
follow us on Instagram, send in your stories and topic suggestions, and join the movement
at spiritual.a.f. Until next time.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.